Hello everybody out there on YouTube, and today I've got another interesting video. Today we are looking at the Fort Worth & Western 157. And yes, this engine is so massive that I actually have to film this on the floor instead of on my amazing workbench that's so neat and tidy. Not. So as you can see here, this is Annie. This engine was originally a Santa Fe locomotive before it was redone as a Fort Worth & Western steam engine. Now this is an LGB mogul, so it has the standard features of an opening smokebox door, which we will look at later, highly detailed backhead, as well as sound, which we cannot demonstrate in this video because I do not have G-scale track. In fact, the locomotive is actually resting on modified Lego scale track. There's been an extra rail placed on the side so that the engine just fits on the track, and it does indeed roll. And right now I shall quickly demonstrate one thing. On most LGB moguls, the headlight is actually friction powered by the motor when the engine runs forward. So, here it is. However, it doesn't light up when going backwards the same way. But you can see that it does pop on, which is fairly unique. Also, Annie is one of the rare G-scale locomotives to have actually been at Traintopia. If you know where that is in Frisco, Texas, at the Discovery Center. And for those of you who don't know what Traintopia is, it is a massive G-scale train display that's indoors that runs G-scale locomotives. It was owned privately by the Sanders family. They're a family that just lived here in Texas for a long time. And eventually Mr. Sanders passed away, and his daughters, who the layout befell to, we're looking for a place to sell it to, so that way the layout would be in good hands, and that they wouldn't just have to get rid of it. So they eventually came across the Frisco Heritage Museum, and they then talked to the Museum of American Railroading, which were currently occupying the building at the time. And they were tasked with bringing the layout from the Sanders home all the way to Frisco, Texas. But enough about Traintopia. But anyway, so right now, the mogul, in total, it's almost around 3 feet long. It's about, I would say, 2.5, combining the locomotive and tender together. And I will discuss some of the modifications made to it. The first modification that was made was actually to the pilot. The pilot of the locomotive is actually painted a very, very dark brown. However, it almost appears black on first glance, and you really have to squint at it in order to see it. As, of course, the smoke box door does indeed open, and I shall now demonstrate that. And there you go. And just so that you can see inside, that's what the smoke box inside looks like. It's not a lot of room. In fact, it's quite flat. Usually, the smoke box door has quite a lot of space. In fact, these details should actually be right over here, because the smoke box is supposed to be hollow, but it isn't. So, yeah, now I shall close it, like so, and put the latches back on the locomotive, like so. And also, you can see the 157 number plate here. And of course, just like the real locomotive that runs in Fort Worth, that the engine is based on, this locomotive too is built by the Cook Locomotive Works of Paterson, New Jersey. Of course, other details that were done were the steam pipes and sand line pipes were highlighted with some weathering, as you can see. Also, gold bands were put around the cylinders. And gold bands were also put around the domes, as well as having maroon painted on the mid parts of them. And the sand dome has a golden cap, and so does the smokestack. Custom made, completely. Of course, here's the bell, and of course it does actually have a bell cord hooked up to it, as you can see. And that little cord was just simply made from some wiring I had left over, and I had it attached to the bell and then glued onto the roof, so that way it wouldn't move or come off while moving. So that's pretty cool. As of course, here's the 157 on the side of the engine. It was actually, I had to hand paint over the existing numbers just so I could keep the font on them. The 1 still has a little bit of some scraggliness to it, but I think it adds character. Anyway, it does have a detailed interior. You can see the driver right there, and there's the fireman. And of course right there you'd see the firebox, and of course you have the wires necessary for connecting the engine and tender together. Also, if you notice, the roof is actually painted in 2 different shades of maroon. The little ventilation cap here is painted a slightly brighter maroon, kind of like the kind that is seen here on the domes. And the roof is painted a slightly darker shade of maroon. The reason why, simply put, is because the paint mixing consistency to get this color is very tricky, and you often end up getting either a brighter or darker shade. But I like it. It adds a little bit more depth to the model. And of course, here we have the decal for the Fort Worth and Western Tarantula. That was custom made. And then of course we have the nameplate here, Annie, which was also custom made. Now some people I know have asked if the owner of the engine, Texas, I think his name is Texas Railfan 21, they were asking if he had named the engine Annie after Annie from Thomas and Friends. While I would agree that that is a pretty clever name, that is not the Annie that he named it after. In fact, the Annie that this comes from is from his grandmother, Annie Ann, who he named it after. And also, just like the real 2248 that this engine is based off of, there is a Stealth water cooler painted steam locomotive black on the tender. This is usually how it looks from when you look at it on this side. But unless I pointed it out to you, you would have never guessed that it was there. And just to give you a little closer look, if the light that I have will work. There we go. You can see it says Stealth Cooler right there. I do have a video of this locomotive running on my channel already, so if you want to see that video, you can go and look at that right away. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video and seeing the locomotive. Hope to see you soon, and see you guys in the next video.